And today, a lot of nations are fighting for their survival, sovereignty, and peace. And the Sahel region is part of the area feeling heavy pressure and influence of imperialism.
По русской традиции. Попробуем. Прантули готовишь? C'est pour moi. Merci beaucoup. По русской традиции.
Marking the 80th anniversary of the victory over Nazism, we took part in the parade yesterday. Earlier, the day before, we also attended a number of cultural events. And I would like to say that we have learned a lot of lessons from all these celebrations, which should give us room for thought and needed motivation to get the African machine back on track. And today, a lot of nations are fighting for their survival, sovereignty, and peace. And the Sahel region is part of the area feeling heavy pressure and influence of imperialism. And with all we are experiencing, I do hope we can honor the memory of all those people, soldiers, who sacrificed their bodies and souls and advanced our struggle against imperialism and neo-colonialism. I therefore declare a moment of silence. I'll give you a few examples during my speech to help you understand what I mean. We are at Mendeleev University, Dmitry Mendeleev University of Chemical Technology of Russia. Everyone knows Mendeleev for his scientific achievements. Let me share a short story. While studying at school, there were people who didn't like certain things, who couldn't learn them successfully. And when they couldn't learn a particular concept, we would nickname them after the scientists who invented it. For example, we had students called Pavlov or Mendeleev. I personally enjoy science. I'm a scientist. One could wake me up at any time and I'd recite Mendeleev's periodic table. The same goes for the chemical equations we've spent so much time working on since secondary school. We're very good at doing so on paper. Similarly with thermodynamics. I tell you this to prove that practice matters, and we lack the laboratories to practice more. For example, we're at war. We pay for equipment, ammunition, weapons, and so on. Speaking of ammunition, explosives. Mali produces cotton, as does Burkina Faso and Niger. However, as you know, it's the cotton cellulose that's used to produce gunpowder and explosives. Why can't we do that? We don't develop practical chemistry. Similarly, you see all the types of missiles Russia builds. The latest is Oreshnik missile that has made the whole world laugh. However, the fuel and everything else is chemistry. But can we learn how to create or develop a fuel, an engine for comparable missiles? There are endless examples to give, and the list could go on. However, I would like to emphasize how fortunate you are to be here, at the very heart of chemistry and mathematics. Russia has seen remarkable scientists in such disciplines as physics, chemistry, and mathematics. Yet, as the representatives have pointed out, history has often been fabricated. We must recognize that the wealthy do not necessarily excel in every field. It is those who have written history who often claim superiority in all areas. Today, history proves that everything is false. There should be original knowledge, as Mendeleev's periodic table demonstrates. It summarizes the point. Therefore, I encourage you to use this opportunity and learn in practice for our common benefit. If a country is weak, it is doomed to disappear in this world of predators. It must be strong. Nuclear powers are strong. They will never lose a war. We can tell you everything about the nuclear bomb, isotope fission, and energy release, but can we successfully put it into practice? That is why you should take this opportunity, as you are the key to the development of our country. And take a look at their statements. Those of the French president, Emmanuel Macron, for example. He is always saying young Africans are influenced by Russia. And Western media, all they do is lie. And speaking of AES, Alliance of Sahel States, which is a model of emerging structure, they can't spend their day without mentioning Burkina or AES. They cannot but talk about it. And every time they seek to use this information to manipulate the youth, but it no longer works. I think people are quite aware of their goals. They manage to distort history by using this rhetoric, including the history of Africa. They could pass off lies as the truth, leading to some young Africans not knowing Africa's history. What has Africa done? Some don't even know that our grandparents fought, being used as cannon fodder, and in return, killed like animals. Do people know that when France experimented with its first atomic bomb, it was black soldiers who were placed in the lethal radius to see what effect it had? It's all in the archives. Everything they used against Africa is terrible. So there is all this that must be communicated for young Africans for them to learn it, because there are still many in the dark who continue to support the imperialists, believing what they say and do. Maybe because they're given something, I'm not sure. But Africa must learn its history. Wake up. This is what we also fight for. My biggest regret is having spent a good part of my youth listening to radios like RFI, France 24. I've been living in countries where these radios were the only ones. We would use the programs, record their news to listen to, but after a while, there was a click. I began to understand that they brainwash us to accept what they want. It's their narrative they want us to learn, and since then I've become more aware of this, and I've understood that what they do is very dangerous, and today, more than ever, I realize that they have especially manipulated the minds of Africans. And you can play a significant role in waking young people's consciousness, helping them understand how the world works, and preventing them from falling into the trap of those narratives.